thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, guys, everybody. That's right. It is Thursday, October 17th, and today is National Edge Day because, you know, everyone loves to live on the edge in cannabis.
Jason, are you an edge lord?
Yes. You know what else it is, Rico? You're going to love this.
Jason, I don't think you know what he meant by that. Just say no.
Oh, no then. No then. Sorry. I definitely didn't know what he meant then.
I got you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Blur of the edge.
Well, pause. It's also, Rico, it's also Black Poetry Day, Rico.
Sure.
They have several meetings there.
What was that deal?
They have several meetings. Is it written by blacks or is it dark poetry?
That's a good question. That's a really good
poetry.
That's a really good question. It's also National Mulligan Day for all you golfers out there.
I'll take a mulligan.
All right, take that. It's also National Pasta Day.
Me.
Yeah, all those carbs. Oh man, here, and this is one for everybody. It's National Get Smart About Credit Day, you guys.
Yeah, we need that.
Goddamn credit, forget it.
Mm-hmm. And for all of you with businesses, it's also Get to Know Your Customers Day.
Big shout out to the custies.
Yeah, shout out to all the custies all across the globe. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday. That's right. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above or down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. But today, we are going to kick it off with the dope dad himself. He is so busy dope dadding constantly that he really can't tell the difference between noon and midnight. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. Sorry, Rico, you get no applause today. I apologize.
It's okay, man. I don't need your damn applause, Jason. I got applause for myself. You know what I'm saying?
There we go. Pause. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, pause. Yeah.
My mulligan clap over there. But y'all know I'm all about following the money. That's what we're going to do this morning because a new report released by Whitney Economics, as reported by Green Market Report's Adam Jackson, says that the U.S. cannabis industry is poised for massive expansion, and financial institutions could be the biggest benefactors as it finally is time to invest. Let's talk about it. So I'm pretty sure that the investment community comes in a close second to politicians when it comes to being the biggest gaslighters in cannabis. But this story's in the headlines on multiple news sites today, so here we are again. According to a report by Whitney Economics, the U.S. cannabis industry is set for a significant growth over the next decade, potentially adding 25 to 30,000 new business licenses and acquiring $130.7 billion in funding. Bo Whitney and Company is predicting that the current market, valued at $28.8 billion in retail sales, could expand to $87 billion by 2035. Now, if that indeed happens, this presents a major opportunity for financial institutions with a lending potential between $65.6 billion and $130.7 billion, which could generate $1 to $2.4 billion in annual interest revenue alone for lenders. However, banks remain cautious due to regulatory risks and a lack of cannabis-specific underwriting practices. The report also once again trumpeted the hypothetical merits of the Safer Banking Act, currently under consideration in Congress. Technically, currently under consideration since 2017, but I digress. It says that the Safer Banking Act could help by allowing cannabis businesses to access federally insured deposits, potentially boosting financial activity by billions. And despite federal uncertainties, some states like Delaware are enacting their own protections for financial institutions that work with cannabis businesses. So like I've said before, I will believe it when I see it. I'm still going to be following this money, though. Anybody who successfully came up on cannabis stocks over the last near decade, I'd love to see proof. Let me see those ledgers. Oh, too many people. But also the article saying the quiet part out loud, right in the headline in all of our faces. Who's going to be the big winner? Like always in America, financial institutions, a.k.a. the big banks. It is America, people, the nation built upon and run by big banks. And no matter how much work we put in, they're going to be the ones eating. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. What do you guys think, man?
Big bank, take little bank.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
All day, a day.
I mean, we already know the banks are always going to win. I mean, yeah, anyone that ever played Monopoly knows that the bank is always going to win.
Who gets bailed out first?
Banks. Mm-hmm. Big banks and the little banks.
Who denied your ass for a loan?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not the big banks and the little banks, Jason.
Yeah, big banks and the little banks. Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah. You know, equality, right? For banks.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Well, I'll be curious to see what they want as far as strings attached to their loans. Because I've had to do a lot of personal guarantees for loan repayments and things like that. That have, you know, fortunately, if you have somebody with deep pockets as one of your partners, you can do that. But banks are going to get paid one way or another. And we still haven't figured out bankruptcy versus receivership and how that's going to work. Basically, I don't trust them. But, you know, they're going to come in. They're going to have a lot of leverage. They're going to be the tail wagging the dog in a lot of these projects. Because they require insurance. They require decent business plans. They do due diligence on you. And you can't blow too much smoke up their ass because they've dealt with a lot of people that are shady operators. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see how this really rolls out, because I basically don't trust them. But I don't trust private money in the cannabis space either.
Why don't you trust private money in the cannabis space, Dale?
Well, the first question is where'd it come from? Due diligence tends to box people into corners. And I've had more than a couple missing matches with people with money that are not really upfront and honest about where they got it and what they want to do with it. So I've just had some bad experiences with people who are less than totally honest about what their intentions are with their money.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, a lot of people in cannabis don't really talk about where they got their money from either. Just saying.
Oh, this is true. And they don't always want to follow the rules. And that's another one of the problems we face going forward. The rules keep changing. But in California, the 420 space got used to bending a lot of rules. Now, as we just found out from, what was it, Kush, you piss off the state, they'll come in and they'll stomp your ass in the ground.
Oh, Jenny actually wrote an original piece about that today that we'll be covering later in the show.
On Kush Collective?
We'll be talking all about that later. Too bad, Rico, you're going to miss out on that one. You would have loved this one. Jenny wrote an original piece.
I'll have my headphones on. I can't wait for that one.
All right. Well, make sure you get up in the chat. You know what I'm saying?
We're chatting it up, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. The way I feel about this, man, is this is the root of the problem in America. And this is why we're always going to keep on losing. The way that American banks and the way the interest works in our banks means that we are never going to win. And the fact that banks don't go bankrupt, the system is broken.
Well, Washington Mutual did.
That one,
There was also too that one.
Did it really go bankrupt, or was it just divided into other banks so they can get bigger?
There was that one that went bankrupt too. That all the cannabis people were using for a while. That one went belly up too.
Like I said, they just divide the assets and just divide the assets and then push them into other banks and make those bigger, and the cycle continues. This is if you want to dive a little deeper into my thoughts and why I say a lot of the things that I say, is because
we're going in the deep end today.
Those are the institutions that need to be burned down.
Keep your floaters on.
They should be burned down. We have no gold-backed dollar anymore. The bunch is all a sham, and the only people that always get saved in this country are the bankers.
That's why Fox News has so many gold sellers as sponsors on their show, Rico.
Yeah, doom sellers.
Rachelle, what do you think about this, being out there in the great state of Minnesota and like beverage haven of the U.S.? You know what I mean? Those people are getting some money
out there. Yeah.
I mean, I think that I have to I don't love that there's private, but that's just how this game works, because people can't get funding. And so there have to be these angel investors. And even if the banks do open up, they're still going to be crucial. And it still doesn't mean that the loans won't be risky. I mean, look at Canada, like it's been legal up there for 6 years. And banks are still saying that cannabis loans are too risky. They don't want to do business with these people. But the fact that we're poised for growth, I mean, that feels optimistic, which feels really, really good. I mean, it's been so much bad news for years. So if someone feels good about something, like, take it.
I said joy right there.
I love joy. Stone,
I think it's interesting because they said the same group put out a study that showed the exact opposite about a month ago, because I reported on that one. So I just, once again, who's really pulling this data down? What's really happening, and why is this, right? Like, who paid you to do this study so that they could get their investors to jump on board and feel like their deck has a little more validity? These studies are seeming, you can't flip-flop that largely on an entire industry in a month's time.
That's a very good point,
I would say this is disingenuous.
It's like I said, Jenny Beth, bankers and investors are the second biggest gaslighters in cannabis, next to politicians.
Sorry.
I think we'll add the statisticians to it too. The guy who's running all this report, the data analyst.
Who, Bo Whitney?
Analysts.
Oh God, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Why are you so nasty this morning, Rico? I want to hear from Stone and his fresh new back.
Yeah, he's fresh. Stone is back with a brand new back, you guys.
Oh man!
No, he's got a brand new back.
Look at that.
Looking like a lumberjack.
Exactly. With his flannel on and all.
Moving slow, folks. Moving slow over here.
I like it, man.
You're looking like an old man with that beard too, Stone. You sounding like Dale. I think he's in competition. I think he's in competition with you, Dale.
I can't bend over to shave yet, so this is a month of growth.
Hold on a second. You can't bend over to shave?
No, man.
Why do you need to bend over to shave? It's your face.
Dude, back shots, bro.
Can't bend over, bro.
I'm confused because I don't bend over when I shave. That's crazy.
He's a lot taller than you, Jason. You're closer to the snake. He's got a wife at home too, so he can't make a mess and leave whiskers all over the place.
I don't. You've seen my house, Jenny Beth. I don't.
That's an occupational hazard. Because you're close to the sink, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm close to the sink. Stop the cap.
Glad you're still with us, Stone, and you're vertical, man. You're breathing, and as a fellow bad back individual, man, I feel your pain, man. Sending good vibes to you.
I can't wait till I'm healed, man, and hopefully I won't have a bad back anymore. We'll see.
Well, I mean, from judging by the photos that I've seen, you're practically the bionic man now, Stone Slade.
Yeah. $6 billion man, here I am.
That's right. Look at that.
All
Dude,
right,
that's a serious beard, Stone.
Nice.
That is a serious.
I like the beard.
Man, that's a good look for you, bro. I mean, that's
It's good.
very Texas of you, Stone.
You got a little salt in that pepper.
Yeah, I wish you had a cowboy hat on today.
Oh, I should go find one.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, on that, we're going to roll into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, that was weird. Hey, you, America. Do I look like Sean Connery? morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
And we are back, like Stone Slade's back. And up next, y'all know who it is. Once again, the Christopher Columbus apologist, the man known for smoking the best weed in the world, the highest Republican in every room that he walks into. And when he walks out of, he leaves a cloud of smoke, and hopefully it doesn't smell like Donald Trump's underwear.
Whoa.
Jason Beck.
Whoa. Sounds, man, unless you're saying that because I smell like the shit, bro. I don't really, you know what I'm saying?
You said it. You said it this time. I didn't say it this time, man. You said it this time, but
Rico's very his mind is in the gutter. He's very back end focused today.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, let me tell you guys something, man, oh man, because the prohibitionists are hard at work, you guys, because groups ramp up efforts for and against Arkansas's medical marijuana access amendment that voters are going to be voting on this November. The status of a ballot issue looking to expand medical marijuana access in Arkansas is still up in the air, with early voting less than a week away. On Wednesday morning, Arkansas Family Council held a press conference to speak out against the proposed amendment and lay out their campaign tactics in case this is counted as a ballot measure, you guys. That's right. Organizers with Arkansas for Patient Access, better known as APA, the group behind the ballot issue, says it is also hard for them to campaign right now, but they feel Family Council's message won't resonate with voters, you guys. The constitutional amendment would expand the list of medical professionals who can prescribe medical marijuana cards. It will broaden qualifications to include whatever a healthcare practitioner feels is debilitating for a patient and could be treated with marijuana. In addition, medical marijuana cards would expire after 3 years under the proposal instead of the current 1-year limit. That's a great news. That's awesome. I'm totally down with that. Arkansas Family Council President Jerry Cox said regulation will be an issue if the amendment passes. In a quote, says, "What issue 3 does is just turn that upside down and creates this chaotic situation where the legislature can't regulate it, where certain things are written into stone in our Constitution and can't be changed. And that great beneficiary of that are the great growers and sellers in Arkansas," Cox said. APA spokesperson Melissa Faltz said in an interview the measure will not feed into monopolies and is solely written to help patients stay out of the black market who need medicine for serious medical issues. In a quote, they say, "We've got something as we had the same thing as we've had before," Fruit said. "We are allowing more patients to be able to have access to cannabis that they desperately need." A forthcoming Arkansas Supreme Court decision will determine whether the issue will count on the ballot or not, and if it does, both sides say they'll be traveling all over the state next week to meet with voters. Early voting starts on Monday, October 21st, and Election Day is November 5th in Arkansas, and man, I hope this thing gets on the ballot, and I can't wait to see what Arkansas has to say about this. And I'm totally down with patients not having to renew their medical recommendations every 3 years as opposed to 1 year, because I've always felt as though that for a lot of people that have conditions that aren't going to change throughout the course of their life, they should just be able to get a recommendation once and be able to that be that and not have to continue to go and pay for these things over and over throughout time. But nonetheless, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, this is awesome. First of all, I think that it's great. They're going to let doctors be doctors and decide what works for what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not something that's a dangerous pharmaceutical that you need to be like going through all these different trials of other things to see if that works first, because this is something that's unsafe and a last-ditch effort. I think it's really nice that we're putting the decision back in the hands of the practitioner, and I love that the cards will last for 3 years instead of making it kind of the pill mill of new things to sell.
Well, but most states have a Medical Practices Act, and that's where all this, centers. Because in California, you have to see patients at least once a year if you're going to be prescribing drugs to them, and you have to have a good faith prior exam and medical indication. In California's Prop 215 had the omnibus provision for any condition for which marijuana provides relief. So in California, we've been working under this for quite some time. And thank God we have the initiative process. Because without initiatives, I doubt that legislatures around the country would do diddly squat to try and move cannabis forward. It just doesn't go anywhere. So the initiatives broke through. And I always like to have doctors have more discretion than less.
Yeah.
It's part of my problems with what the government does to doctors right now. Doctors, by and large, are a bunch of sissies, don't want to fight the government. But if you allow them to be physicians, I like that, because physicians are not all out selling Vicodin and OxyContin. Most of them really are looking out for your best interest. If the government would get out of their goddamn way.
Fair enough. Any thoughts?
Does this thing, Jason, does it have a good chance of passing?
I'm not sure what its chances are of passing. It sounds to me like they're trying to just keep it on the ballot as of right now. I'm looking for an additional article to give a little bit more clarity on that. So give me just 1 second. But I can't wait to Stone. Rachelle, you have any thoughts on this?
Arkansas has been killing it, right? I mean, they have had really high sales for the medical program, have they not?
Yeah, they have. Yes, they have.
I love it. I think people underestimate these southern states, but Stone can tell us people in the South get high. They need the medicine.
But I freaking hate the people that are controlled down here, people that are opposing this proposition. They're backwards. I don't understand them. I don't get them. But man, I hope they get that on the ballot so that the citizens can know.
Yeah, I know quite a few people moved out there to help out with Arkansas effort over the last couple of years.
What has happened?
California. So I don't know, man. The movement is strong down there. I hope that the people's sentiment is heard. And they actually get this shit to pass, and they get to expand into adult use. As soon as possible.
Well, here's a quote from the executive director Jerry Cox of the Family Council Action Committee. He says, "I think it's incredibly unfair, though it's not anybody's fault. We're in this situation where we're on the eve of early voting, and we still don't know if some measures qualify," said Executive Director Jerry Cox during a press conference in the state capitol on Wednesday. He also says that makes it very difficult. And apparently they are getting ready to plan this whole statewide tour to maneuver. And he also says that patients who need medical marijuana can get it, Cox said. Over 100,000 people have medical marijuana cards in Arkansas right now, and access is not a problem.
Cox said they can get it. I'm not digging it.
Awesome.
Interesting. He also says, imagine Arkansas being a place where people can get free marijuana cards to use marijuana here in our state, and what that might do to certain communities where people congregate, Cox said. Imagine illegal immigrants being able to come here and get a free marijuana card. What does that do to our state, and what kind of message does that send to the rest of the country where Arkansas becomes the marijuana drug use destination? I think he's grabbing at straws right there.
Better.
You know what that marijuana does to brown people. You better watch out.
It makes those dogs and cats taste a lot better, Stone.
Can somebody call this guy and tell him that white people stand out in the yard too? It's not just us.
Hold on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it Arkansas that passed that bill to stop undocumented workers from working on the farms, and then the entire economy tanked? It was either Arkansas or Alabama.
I think that was Alabama. I think that was Alabama. But in an additional quote. What's that?
Need sugar jabs.
In an additional quote, he says, "The thing that really grieves me about this amendment is the fact that I have witnessed very powerful marijuana millionaires manipulate our initiative process to buy their way to the ballot," Cox said. "What they're about to do to the people of Arkansas is absolutely awful. And what they're doing in the name of the Almighty God should not happen to our state."
Cocksure.
Yeah.
Oh, the marijuana millionaires.
The marijuana. Oh, man. Man, oh, man.
All right.
Yeah. All right. We're going to keep this train rolling, you guys. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. He's the founder of Armada Law Practice. And at one point in time, did some time for some cannabis crime. And as soon as he got out, he started throwing on a cape and all of a sudden can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right. It's none other than attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. My story this morning comes out of MJ Biz Daily, and the headline is "Commercial Landlords Soften Stance on Renting to Cannabis Businesses." Anybody who's been in the industry for any period of time has had to deal with the problems of obtaining real estate, either through lease or purchase. And what this is basically talking about is leasing or renting real estate in the cannabis space. Back in California is considered a mature market now, but back in the day when we first started the legal business, if you could find a place that would lease to you or rent to you as a cannabis business, it was down some dusty old back road, and you got what was called triple net, over $2 a square foot triple net leases. They were killers. Well, since COVID and decline in tenancies and real estate, there's a whole lot of money due now for loans on these properties, and a lot of them are sitting empty. So this story is about how the real estate market is now looking differently at the cannabis space because federal prohibitions are not being enforced. So the concern about federal forfeiture coming in is just not there. The states have backed off quite a bit from asset forfeiture, and basically now, if you lease to somebody, you have to know that they're doing something illegal before your property is in jeopardy of being forfeited. And a lot of the lending institutions have backed away from their prohibitions about having cannabis businesses in their properties that they have a mortgage on. All this comes together to make available better places, more C-suites, if you will, in zones where they allow manufacturing, cultivation, or retail spaces. You have to be, around the corner and up a couple flights of stairs to have a retail space anymore. Now, this becomes critical if you're looking into opening a cannabis business, because now you can go out and peruse the real estate market and have a better chance of finding landlords that will lease to you under more favorable terms. Given the vagaries of this industry, I try to put into my contracts a bailout provision so that if you don't get your license in the first year or two, you can cancel a lease and walk away from it without having to incur a 5-year liability or even more. And you don't have to endure all these triple net problems where you have to pay taxes and upkeep and insurance and things like that. I still see that these landlords want insurance guarantees that if something happens, their building's not going to be lost. And there's still struggles with financing of these businesses, and due diligence for MSOs is easier because you can, especially if they're a publicly traded MSO, you can look up their history and their provenance and see how many assets they have under management, what their cash flow is, what their EBITDA is. There's a lot of things you can determine publicly now. But for smaller operators becomes a bigger problem because who's going to finance you? Where's the money coming from? And these people who own real estate, they want some assurances that they're not going to be dumped and left with a bad building. But overall, what this story's about is some good news, and that the real estate market is opening up. And they think with change to Schedule 3, it's going to be better. I'm not part of that crowd. I think Schedule 3 is going to be disaster for the industry. But there's people with a lot of hope out there that, oh, this will make it different. I don't think so. It will lock a lot of people out. But the real estate business is looking upon Schedule 3 more favorably because you'll have now a legal substance in their mind, even though they don't understand the industry, and that most of us would never qualify to be involved in a Schedule 3 manufacturing, distribution, or sale business. I'm going to throw this back at you for your experience and comments about the real estate market and what you all think.
You know, cannabis businesses are really at the beholdenness of the landlords. It's really, cannabis industry is really a real estate game more than it is even about selling weed, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, I always felt like the real estate investments were the only ones that were really paying off, right? For a while, those REITs were so hot.
Well, and they still think it is. They say cannabis, and their eyes do the Scrooge McDuck thing, right? And then we're paying triple industry standard rent. And it's, you know, I'm literally after the show, I'm going to go back and look for more real estate because I'm trying to find a home for 4 freaking dispensaries right now. I'm trying to find something that fits within the buffers and trying to find something that somebody doesn't have like a Bank of America loan on because we sure can't go there. So, I mean, there's just so many different hurdles, and I don't know that it is getting any better. I hope that it will. But I don't see that happening right now. And that's, you know, we kind of fall into the same thing that we do with predatory lenders is we're falling into predatory landlords, right? The last thing that you ever want as a cannabis operator is to have your landlord be your business partner. And people are like, oh, well, cool, you can rent with us. We'll come in with you. We want to invest in this property. You know, we'll give you X number of months off or whatever. And you give us a percentage. Well, Jason, you can speak to how bad it is to have a landlord as a business partner. Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of people can. Like the person who is your partner should not be able to lock you out of your house.
100%.
That's what happens when your wife gets mad.
You're so right about that. And, you know, just to speak on that, Steve Lessingham threw in the chat, it says, some landlords are greedy and some are just trying to pay their bills like everybody else. But I think in cannabis, a majority of them are greedy because they're very opportunistic and they're like, oh my God, I see this big money grab that I can get. And they all feel as though that everyone in cannabis is wealthy, rich and making just money hand over fist, when in reality, the people that are making that money is the government with all their overinflated taxes.
No, 100%. And also a lot of these landlords have been burned now too, right? Because if they're not getting their money, you're like, you know what? Finally, we'll let a dispensary move in. We'll let a cultivation move in. And then they don't pay the rent. They're like, oh, well, now I want 6 months up front. I want a year up front. I want triple deposit. I want all this. And they're just making it so far out of reach for these properties to make sense. And that prize pig you're selling is really not that great, right? It's a gift horse if you're talking about it. So we're looking at buildings that require a lot of tenant improvement. We're looking at properties that just aren't the greatest. So I think we'll see what happens. Yeah, a lot of the spaces, as far as the zoning that happens with cannabis real estate, is generally in a lot of undesirable neighborhoods and areas of town where a lot of the properties are very much dilapidated. Not even that. Like we were looking at a property and there was one thrown to us, and I'm like, Mr. Realtor, that is very, very active. In fact, it's so active that's run by not 1 but 3 neighborhoods. Thank you. We don't want to be the tip of the iceberg for all that bullshit, like, because it's dangerous, and that means that's going to increase your security costs. That's going to mean that we probably have armed guards 24/7 and still get robbed. Like you got to really open up and be realistic about where we can and cannot go. But that also falls back on the regulators in some of these buffer zones. Very, very true. Very true. Well, when a local jurisdiction decides they're going to go green, they designate zones. And as soon as they designate a zone, you have to go out there and try to find anyone that'll rent to you in that zone. That's where they get you by the short hairs, because you have to go to them. And I have seen real estate deals be better over the last couple of years, but they still don't take into account that people have a business plan, and you have to budget for the reality of sitting on a lease for maybe years and not making any cash flow. And the tenant improvements, you sometimes can get credit for them. Very often you have to leave them behind. And if a landlord allows you to go in and do TIs in their building,
and then you walk away from it, and they may have to go in and gut it and start over again. And so there's just a lot of uncertainty in the industry still. And this story seems to be a little more optimistic than I am. Because when I sit down with my clients, it really brings tears to clients' eyes to realistically set down a budget and have a 6-month, a 1-year, a 3-year, a 5-year plan, and have funding for that, knowing the vagaries of like the real estate market, change in regulations. It's still just a mess. And real estate has been greedy, as you know, both of you, that anybody who's been involved in this knows the real estate is going to take what they can. And if they charge too much, these businesses fail. So you have to have some leverage with a landlord to understand that, yeah, you can, try to get all this stuff from somebody, but you're going to guarantee they fail on you. How do you find a sweet spot in affordability for these startup companies with a business? You don't have to go in and bring electricity in, repair the roof, and do all this other stuff. It just kills a business. Real estate is still a big problem for our industry.
Fair enough. Any thoughts on this, Rachelle or Stone?
We're moving.
All right, we're going to keep this moving. We are going to roll right into our next commercial. We're going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can find at our website at www.high9news.com. And make sure tomorrow you remember that we are going to have the researchers and doctors from Abstracts Labs coming in after the show, immediately following our sixth story, and presenting some brand new science and information that they have discovered. And this will be a quarterly segment that we do with Abstracts and the research and science that they are producing for the cannabis space.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right, Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry. Secure up to $2 million today, and make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
Oh, yes. And we are back. And that's right. Stone Slade is back with a brand new bag filled with Delta 8 joints and all. That's right. It isn't none other than Mr. Stone Slade. I see. I hope that didn't hurt you, Stone. I hope that didn't hurt you.
Didn't hurt.
I saw the giggle.
You can't hurt me.
All right.
It's good to be back. All right. Folks, Willie Nelson has been telling us for decades that cannabis shouldn't be treated like a crime. And now here he is again supporting a new effort in Dallas to finally decriminalize it. Proposition R, which will be on the November ballot, aims to put an end to arrests for possessing small amounts of cannabis. Nelson called the effort a long past due, and honestly, he's not wrong. As Willie puts it, marijuana is an herb and a flower, not a crime. You have to appreciate the way Nelson is stuck with this fight. His support for Ground Game Texas, one of the groups pushing for Proposition R, feels like a natural next step for someone who's been so open about his relationship with the plant Willie's first arrest for possession happened in Dallas back in 1974, and he's been arrested a few more times over the years. In fact, one of those arrests caused him to miss the funeral of former Texas Governor Ann Richards, I think she was the last Democratic governor. Anyway, you could say Nelson's story is one of Texas's longest running cannabis sagas. But it isn't just about Willie's personal journey. From 2018 to 2023, nearly 200,000 Texans were arrested for cannabis possession. That's a staggering number of people whose lives were thrown off track for a little bit of plant. Katina Volier, the executive director of Ground Game Texas, put it well. Like far too many Texans, Willie knows firsthand how much a weed possession can disrupt a life. If passed, Proposition R, also known as the Dallas Freedom Act, would decriminalize possession of less than 4 ounces of cannabis for adults over 21. The act would also make police and city officials report back quarterly on any arrests or citations related to cannabis. These aren't just empty promises about social change. Activists gathered nearly 50,000 signatures to get this measure on the ballot, and the Dallas City Council approved it for a vote back in August. Natalie Marquez, field director for Ground Game Texas, explains it best. This campaign is for the grandmothers who signed the petition to make sure that their grandchildren never had a bad interaction with the law. It's for veterans who want to combat their PTSD with cannabis but are afraid of getting into legal trouble. The campaign is dedicated to everyone who has lost years of their lives after being locked up for a joint. Now, it's a story we've told before, over and over. Nelson's advocacy is part of a bigger push, not just for cannabis reform, but for basic fairness. And this time the message is louder. Texas could stop wasting resources on locking people up for a joint and instead focus on real social justice. Nelson's been on this road for a long time, from starting the Teapot Party with the slogan, tax it, regulate it, and legalize it, to endorsing every sensible cannabis policy that comes his way. Now it's Dallas's turn to step up. So as we head into November, Dallas voters will get their chance to make a choice. And as Willie said, vote for Proposition R and let's move forward together. Texas might not just be known for moving fast on issues like this, but with 200,000 cannabis arrests, in just 6 years, there's no better time to catch up. I'm Stone Slade, reporting for the High at 9 News.
Stone, I mean, don't you know Willie?
Yeah.
See, look at that. Look at that. I mean,
Willie gave him that shirt.
Man. He also did Willie teach you how to trim a beard too, Stone?
Did not do that either. No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh boy. I
rarely have a beard, so I don't know what to do with this thing.
Stone, I like it. It looks
Yeah,
good.
Stone, I think you should rock it, bro. You got
It's a strong beard. For all the men who can't grow one, that's a strong beard.
Hey, thanks. There we go. There's a month.
Yeah.
The only thing you got to worry about, Stone, is they, and it's perfect because rolling into November, isn't November?
No shave
month?
November.
No shave November.
November, yeah.
For men's.
Movember.
Yeah,
Yep.
November. Then then at the same time you already can dress up for the part of Santa Claus, bro, at Christmas time because you have that full beard going on.
Stop it. Come on. That's Dale's job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got the man boobs and the beer belly, so I can be Santa Claus.
There you go.
Boy.
I mean, 50,000 signatures, Stone. I'm surprised that's such a low number as far as for signature. I thought that was low too, for the size of population in Dallas, Texas.
It's low, but it's enough to get it on the ballot, and I think the people of Dallas will. I think the people of Dallas will go for it.
I think.
Well, you have to remember the way that everything is policed there. I'd be a little nervous maybe too to put my name on something that says that you might come raid my house.
How's the state going to handle this, Stone? I mean, if Dallas goes, we're not going to enforce this or we're going to change the law, what do you think that the Attorney General of the state's going to do about this?
Well, I mean, that prick has been suing all the cities that have decriminalized. So we'll see. He's all up in arms about this wacky weed.
Mm-hmm. But yet THCA is grade A.
Hey.
You know who they need? They need Joe Rogan to jump on this.
They do. You know who they really need is they really need someone like Jerry Jones to get behind this.
Oh.
That would be.
He's having a rough year. He's having a real rough year.
He's
Cowgirls fans, are y'all okay?
Oh boy.
What's that?
Yeah, y'all still them boys? Are the Cowboys fans okay?
Yeah, how about them boys?
Rachelle, you
maybe Dak should come out for it. He's got such a winning streak going.
Rachelle, have you ever been to Dallas?
No, I've only ever been to Houston, Texas.
H-Town. H-Town.
Yeah, it was humid. I think we saw some rocket ships.
Yeah, there's rockets out there.
Yeah, so that was cool. But I'm actually writing a whole big thing about weed in Texas right now, so stay tuned for that on Green State Stone. I'll have to offline with you about some of that stuff.
Nice.
Oh man, I hope you include this. This Willie Nelson is endorsing this initiative going on in Dallas, Rachelle.
Oh, you should get a Willie quote, Rachelle.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
That
Willie,
would be
hit
awesome. Me up. Yeah, I mean, Willie watches the show. Stone sends it to him every day.
Yeah. Put you in touch with his publicist.
Fair enough. There we go.
Dallas is a really cool city. Some really amazing barbecue. I've been to Jerry World. They have a chicken and waffles, and the waffles shaped like the state of Texas, and it's the biggest honey drip piece of chicken I've ever seen in my life. I just had my son, and he was there with me, so I felt okay eating that gelatinous mess. But the barbecue sales would go up. I think the ranchers should get behind this.
I want it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I do want to say one good thing. You know who they really need to get behind this too out there in Dallas is my good buddy Tommy Hicks. Tommy Hicks would help make sure that this thing crossed the finish line and got over without a doubt. But nonetheless, we're going to go to a commercial and we are going to be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Oh, yes, and we are back. Coming up next, that's right, it's Rachelle Gordon. She is recently happily married, had a fantastic wedding out there on the East Coast, little shindig. Yes, and she is probably one of the greatest Lego collectors of all time, and I'm surprised I never saw her on that Lego game show. But nonetheless, she's the editor of Green State Magazine. It is none other than Rachelle Gordon.
I would love to go on Lego Masters. I just don't know if I would be. I think it's one thing to be a collector and another thing to be a Lego master and be able to build all those crazy sets.
I would go on it with you, Rachelle, and I guarantee you we would win.
We've seen you play Jenga.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know how to do this thing. You know, we
would have some pretty lit sets.
Yes, it would be. Oh man, can you imagine? We would force Lego to come out with a weed set.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
It would be amazing. I
want that for us. Okay, yes. Let's call the producers of the show.
I'm with that, Rachelle. I'm ready for this.
Well, before that, I'm going to spill some tea on some drama going down internally at the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management. According to an insider, culture at new Minnesota Cannabis Agency led to several staff members calling it quits. And this actually comes from KSTP Channel 5, our local ABC affiliate in Minneapolis. A former employee of one of Minnesota's newest state agencies says more than half of her team quit during a pivotal time this summer at the Office of Cannabis Management, forcing medical marijuana patients to wait weeks for their medication. The insider's experience sheds light on the culture and working conditions at OCM as the agency took over the medical cannabis program and prepares to launch recreational sales next spring. Quote, "We all loved our jobs. We wanted to stay," said Kim Cray, who started in the medical cannabis program when the Minnesota Department of Health was in charge. The new state law moved the program and its employees from MDH to OCM over the summer. Quote, "I have no idea why they didn't just leave the medical cannabis program intact as it was," Cray said. She tells 5 Investigates that she was part of a team of 8 people that approved medical cannabis certifications. Up until last month, the state required patients to go through the certification process every year. As soon as the move to OCM took place, Cray said everything went downhill fast. But they told us, "Hey, you're coming into our house and you're going to play by our rules," she said. The medical cannabis program had been up and running for quite a long time. It was working fine. We processed the applications within a day or two. Ray said OCM management refused to honor the team's previous remote work schedule and was not interested in feedback or collaboration. She said her team of 8 quickly dwindled down to just 3. Cray was the last to resign mid-August. The staff that remained struggled to keep up with the thousands of patients who submitted paperwork to get certified for another year, leading to the backlog 5 Investigates first reported on last month. The certification process used to take a day or two. Well, I just went through 26 days of not having it, said Jason LaCour, who was diagnosed with HIV and was prescribed cannabis to help with pain. This summer, he was trapped in the backlog at OCM for nearly a month. If it has such great benefits and can help people, let's not make them wait for it, he said. Frey said she dreaded explaining to patients that her hands were tied. They were very distraught, oftentimes weeping, very upset, she said. I had heard at one point somebody saying, "Why are you withholding my medication?" OCM declined a request for an on-camera interview, but in a statement, Josh Collins, an agency spokesman, said the move of the medical cannabis program from MDH to OCM, quote, triggered an increase to the natural attrition that occurs in any organization undergoing substantial change. The agency previously blamed the backlog on IT issues, a busy July, and a change in state law that makes it easier to qualify for medical cannabis. I'm going to scooch on down here. This article's a little bit long. OCM still does not have a permanent director. Charlene Briner joined the agency as interim director in the summer of 23. The initial person hired for the job quit one day amid controversy, quit after one day. When asked for an update on the hiring process, the governor's office told 5 Investigates that OCM has made significant progress and that Briner is the best person for the job during this critical time. Quote, we have made a choice not to disrupt the work in progress by changing leadership at this time, the statement read. So I don't know what it's like in other states if it takes this long to get your license passed. I know that there's all these companies. In fact, Dr. Gene Talleyrand, right? Doesn't he do online certifications? Yep. Theoretically, you would think they'd go through quickly, but making people wait a month for the state to process the application, is that normal? Like, is that how long? Normally take in other states. It feels egregious.
In California, when you after you get your recommendation, and if you want to elect to go and get the state card, that takes about 2 weeks to receive. But you also have to like make an appointment to go down there, so it could take 3, maybe possibly 4 weeks, depending on your appointment time.
However, you would still have access, right? So like when Colorado started, you would go and get your card, and then you'd hop your happy ass with your brand new printed out paper card, which was just a sheet of paper saying that you were going to have a card coming, to the nearest dispensary and buy whatever you needed to buy. And in California, you can do the same. The state certified card will allow you to like not pay taxes in the dispensary, right? So, but the card from an online pharmacist or an online doctor, pardon me, is sufficient to purchase and have access. So I think it's interesting that they're doing that. I don't understand why they would want to gatekeep patients. I understand, sometimes backlogs, and those are not acceptable either on licensing for businesses, but gatekeeping patients is it's deplorable.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
It's definitely not a surprise to hear that there's more drama at the Minnesota OCM, considering everything that's been going on, how long everything is taking. It doesn't surprise me in the least that they're uber short-staffed and are having a hard time keeping people in their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
not a good look.
Yeah, no, I don't think so at all. But it's interesting that so many employers just like, we're out of here. They must have good contracts in place to feel that confident to just walk off the job in that size of workload.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I know that I love that a lot of it's based on not being able to work remotely, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're going to force you to come back to work, come into our office regardless of where you live. Like, that doesn't surprise me in the least. It's just unfortunate to hear that they weren't willing to accommodate their employees, nor were they willing to take any feedback. That feels really concerning.
You know what, as an employer, Rachelle, I'm not too mad at that policy in all reality, because I feel like a lot of the times you can't really manage your employees correctly if they're working remotely, for subcontracting work, I guess that's totally fine. But like if you actually have like an hourly employee, I just feel like there's no way that they're going to be as productive at home as they would be in the office.
Well, productivity aside, right? I think if you're dealing with someone like, the gentleman who has an HIV diagnosis, I don't want that man's medical record sitting on the desk of someone in their random home with God knows who's seeing it, right? Because at that point, you're dealing with protected medical data. You're dealing with people's personal information. So I do see a case for maybe needing to have these folks in office just to keep the integrity of the records intact. I don't know. I think... I feel like they're probably quitting because they're really frustrated because there's a shit ton of work. They're not getting anywhere, and all they're hearing is how it's not getting done.
I wonder, do we know the ages of these employees that walked off the job?
I don't. They have a picture of this gal, and I mean, I can't judge a book by its cover, but she appears to be maybe middle-aged, but I can't say what the average age is. We don't list that in the article.
Fair enough. I was just wondering if these were like a bunch of young kids, is younger individuals, is why I was wondering if they were like a bunch of like self-entitled Gen Zers or something like that.
Doesn't appear to be that way.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
You're on mute, Dale.
You're on mute, Dale.
You're on mute.
DTC here in California's had a problem retaining people too. I don't know about your experience, Jenny Beth, but we've had lots of trouble working with someone, and the next thing you know, they're gone, and somebody else comes in, you start over again. And the culture inside of any business, you have to focus on keeping your employees, if not happy, at least content and meeting their needs. Otherwise, they're right now, employees they'll quiet quit on you. They'll walk away. And it may be it's a younger generational thing. I don't really know, because I've got grandkids, a younger generation. Some of them are good workers, and some of them I'd like to whip their ass. But I don't know how we fix this problem, because there's a lot of turnover in these state agencies and even in local jurisdiction agencies. And it continues to be a problem for trying to move forward and get what you need out of the government, the permits, the licenses, and these ridiculous cards. I don't think the government should be involved in these cards at all. That's just my own opinion.
Fair enough. And I do want to thank Joe Mackey with a big old super chat. He says, let's talk about the trash medical cannabis program, you guys. So, Rachelle, apparently they have a trash medical program up there.
He's not wrong. The stuff is terrible. You can literally only get disty carts and like mid flower, and they only just added flower recently. And the carts are like $100. So
get out of here.
Jesus.
What state is this?
Yeah, for disty in Minnesota.
Minnesota, disty carts $100. Man, and probably like they only got like lame flavors like pina colada and stuff like that, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty sad. And there's also only like 10 dispensaries and only 2 companies. There's Green Goods, which is like I think GTI, and then Verano.
Hold on, there's only 2 companies licensed out there? Is there more on their way?
Yep. When rec licenses start going out, yeah, but right now you can literally only buy cannabis legally from these 2 medical dispensary brands, or you can go out to the reservations and buy rec weed. Otherwise, it's all trap.
Interesting. Man, I'd probably be rolling out to the res. Maybe showing them how to grow some of the best weed in the world or something like that.
They could use your help.
Yes, man. You guys reach out. Well, nonetheless, we are going to keep this thing going, unless you have something to say on trash weed, Stone.
On trash weed? No.
Okay.
Nothing to say.
All right, fair enough.
OCM sounds like a fucking mess, but I did see the backlog at least made them move it to their licenses to 3 years instead of just 1. So there's a silver lining and all that.
Yeah,
That's less fees right there, Stone. The problem is they're gonna license all these people at the same time, and so they're all their licenses are gonna all expire at the same time. They're gonna have the same problem every 3 years.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise, you guys, man, such a mess. Well, I'll tell you what's not a mess. That's right, it's none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She has that southern twang in here to tell you a thing or two about life, liberty, and apparently who is having, man, some craziness happen with their business today, with an original piece today. That's right. It is none other than America's sweetheart, Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Oh, thanks, Jason. My goofy ass would decide to write my own story on the day we have an actual writer on the show. So please don't compare me to Rachelle. This is not what I do. I write licenses. But this is really an interesting story. It needed to be covered, and there wasn't going to be one out, in my opinion. So I wanted to go ahead and knock it out. So we have an important update, and this is not the story. You can go read the entire thing along with a list of all of the brands that were affected and all of the recall data on our website, highat9news.com. But we have an important update regarding the safety of cannabis products in California. The California Department of Cannabis Control has issued a significant embargo on all products manufactured by Kush Collective, also known as Kinder Understanding Sensitive Healing. This action it's followed by the revocation of the company's licenses due to serious compliance issues with the Medical and Adult Use Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. The DCC has raised alarming public health concerns, indicating that there is a probable cause to believe that the Kush products may be adulterated or misbranded. This poses a potential risk to consumers as the integrity of the products cannot be assured. The embargo specifically impacts a wide range of vape cartridges and integrated vaporizers sold under several brand names, including Backpack Boys, Circles, Clouds, and the Marathon Cultivation. If you've purchased Kush products, it's essential to stay vigilant. The DCC advises consumers to monitor for any adverse health effects and to consult a physician if any symptoms arise. When checking your product packaging, look for the unique identification numbers and batch codes. If you find any products that match the recalled items, please dispose of them properly as hazardous waste to ensure safety. The situation sheds light on the ongoing challenges faced by regulatory bodies in the cannabis industry. Critics have long pointed out that the slow response times can leave consumers vulnerable to unsafe products. The DCC's recent actions underscore the need for timely enforcement and effective regulatory framework that protect public health. While California's track and trace system is designed to maintain accountability across the cannabis supply chain, the DCC has struggled with timely responses to compliance failures. This not only jeopardizes consumer safety, but also undermines the credibility of California's burgeoning cannabis industry. The Kush embargo serves as a crucial reminder of the importance of vigilant oversight in the rapidly expanding market. As the DCC reaches out to other licensees with Kush products in their inventory, it highlights the necessity of strict compliance and proactive measures to safeguard public health. As the cannabis market in California continues to grow, it's becoming increasingly clear that effective regulatory framework and prompt actions are essential. The handling of the Kush situation emphasizes the urgent need for timely interventions that protect consumer health and maintain trust in the cannabis supply chain. If you are affected or have questions about the situation, you can contact the California Department of Cannabis Control or visit their official website for further guidance. So it's really important to highlight here that we've seen a lot of pesticide recalls. Those were not done timely either in California. This is not one of them. So just for you guys at home, what an embargo means is that all that product is frozen. You can't move it, you can't touch it, you can't look at it too long, and you sure as shit can't sell it. That happens when there's a breakdown in the track and trace system. When they're saying that there's probable cause to believe that this is adulterated product, the burden of proof in California is that they have to have significant evidence saying that the product is adulterated, aka they can't track the origin of the product within the license system. So what that means is either they're believing that these products came from the illicit market and were brought in and sold as a regulated product, or, some of the inputs were done the same way. So I think it's really important that we address these things. Obviously the company will have the ability to appeal this, but they have now had both of their licenses revoked, which is, a pretty stern smack on the ass, as Dale I'm sure appreciates. But I'd love to throw it back and see what you guys think. I'll probably have some more comment, but I'll reserve that and let you guys jump in there.
Have they actually been revoked, Jenny Beth?
They're revoked. They have been revoked officially.
Interesting. Because I thought at first they were just like their license is on hold until we get all the information back or something.
No, they've received, and I actually added that. So when you go to the story, you can click that if you want to read about the revocation and read the revocation notices that were actually sent out to the license holders.
Interesting. Man,
well, the state has just been too slow to jump on this stuff. I mean, I suppose it's a good thing that this operator got spanked like they did, because it looks like they've been, skirting the rules for a while here. And the heart of this is still the pesticide problem. I think Elliot's onto something here, the Cat 4, that, we need to go beyond these COAs that we've got right now, because people have found a way to get around them either by, hiring a bad testing lab or just by manipulating how this is done, or sneaking product in after they get their COA. None of this stuff should be going on, but it is. And the state has just been slower than molasses in January to take action. If you've got a product that's contaminated with pesticides that shouldn't be there, it should not take months and months for them to do something about this. It's just outrageous.
Oh, man. Go ahead, Jenny.
I mean, operators have gotten very lax because the DCC has moved so slowly and hasn't done their job. They're tasked with overseeing the industry, and there's been no oversight. So people are like, well, wait, why am I doing all this shit? They're never coming. We're not getting inspected. This isn't going to happen. They're not going to do anything about it. And I think that, we got comfortable, especially during COVID, when we had the stay-at-home orders. We became essential very quickly. So we're essentially operating with the only inspection we're getting is a virtual one, right? So that means I'm going to call ding, 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 DCC, put them on FaceTime. Here's my sign. Here's my secured access. Here's my camera, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what I didn't show you was the 700 pounds I got back there that I pulled off my backyard last night and threw on a U-Haul because we've been pulling them out of God knows wherever. So I think that operators got very lax, and I think that this revocation was a very strong move by the DCC, and I think that that is going to hopefully show some other operators that this is not how we do it. And obviously, I don't know. I'm not in your facility, so I don't know what happened personally. I do know some of those operators, and I obviously feel for people when they have a shitty day and lose money and lose whatever, but I also am very big on the fact that this could be a public safety risk, because if you don't know where the product came from, then that COA you're selling off of doesn't match what's actually in that cart. And that's a scary situation because you don't know what's in there. When we concentrate things, whatever is a portion of that flower, if you're blasting trim that's been treated for fucking termites, guess what else we're doing? We're concentrating the levels of those pesticides within the flower, making it where it might not have been detectable before, but now it could be at a critical level for especially an unhealthy patient. So we have to just be more aware.
I don't know if this is true or not, and I don't want to be spreading any rumors, but the fact that I heard this from an industry person that was totally non-related, but the fact that people are saying this, and I'm saying straight up, I don't know if this is true, and this conversation was not with someone that was affiliated with this license, but apparently they were saying that when the DCC got there, that they had absolutely no COAs for any of the products that they had in their inventory.
That's not accurate, and I'm not in the facility. I'm not gonna pull anybody's pants down and show their wiener for them. But that's not possible because we know as retail operators, Jason, that there's no way to sell into a retail store without a COA attached to a product.
I agree with that. I'm just saying how they said it is that there was
now,
none
was it
there.
the right COA? I don't know, but this is the whole thing, and this is what's wrong with us as an industry. When you see somebody get cracked this hard, you need to go to your facility, run, don't fucking walk. Check your inventory, make sure that your systems are balancing, make sure that your house is in order, and don't worry about what the fuck happened to somebody else. We are such gossiping girls in this industry. It's so sad, and I hate to see people enjoying bad things happening to others. That you should probably go pray or take a nap and have a little snacky because you are off kilter somewhere.
How many cannabis businesses do you think are going to take this seriously and are really going to go and try to do a full inventory compliance audit on themselves to make sure that they got everything that they need in the event of these inspections?
I hope my business picks up, dog, because when I speak to people about the compliance and I'm like, do you need help with your compliance? Do you want me to come in? I do audits. Just if you want to have your facility audited, I'll come in and do that. If you know you have an inspection coming up, I'll do a pre-inspection audit for you in the same way that they'll do it, because my job is not to police you. It's to keep the police from cracking down on your ass. But people say repeatedly, nobody's losing their license. Nobody's getting fined. Nobody's this, nobody's that. So maybe now that they're seeing that it's starting to happen, they'll take a little bit more serious approach to their business, because compliance is key in your regulated cannabis business. If you can't be compliant, they can take everything from you and they do not have to give it back.
Fair enough.
Well, at some point, you might want to put into your standard operating procedures that you periodically pull items off your shelves and have them tested. at a fairly high level. I mean, it's an extra layer of pants and suspenders, but at this point, trusting COAs has turned out to be a fool's errand. Oh, I mean, I hate to keep blowing Elliot's horn here, but I think he's onto something. The state has failed when it comes to COAs. And if you're taking the time to do a higher level of COA so that if somebody says, hey, you're selling a bad product, no, we had it tested, here's what's in it, we're assured, then from a standpoint of the attorneys and the insurance industries, you're probably in better standing. They haven't been required yet, but at some point, businesses that sell products that can harm people have testing in-house, where you don't trust anybody else telling you. When you bring something in, like in the dairy industry, they test it coming in, they test it along the way, they test it before it goes out just to make sure you're not selling can hurt somebody. This industry may have to do some more of that to police itself to stay out of trouble. The recall and embargo like this, you can't go to bankruptcy. You're just dead in the water. If you owe people money, not everybody's got a sense of humor when you screw up and cost them a lot of money. The courts work, but so does kicking your ass work. So, there's a lot of problems we could avoid out there if people be a little more cautious with their products and not trust people so much because they're not trustworthy.
No, 100%. And like the last facility that I built out, that was a manufacturing facility. It was ungodly expensive, but we had our own internal testing. It's ungodly expensive for the equipment. It's very sensitive equipment. So that requires a very skilled operator, which means you can't pull $17 an hour ding dong off the street to do it. You need an actual scientist. Also freaking expensive. Was it worth it? It was, because we were doing the right thing, right? I'm doing a micro extraction of every biomass purchase that I made. I'm not letting any other staff member make those purchases. I'm making sure that if anybody comes down on it, it's me, right? So I think there's accountability here. I think we need to be a little more aware of what we're doing, and we're selling something that people are putting in their bodies. We're not selling a fucking shirt that might be off-brand.
Fair enough. Any thoughts on this, Rachelle or Stone?
I mean, it seems like this company knew exactly what they were doing. Weren't they renting space to a trap company too? Like, I don't know. I feel like this thing was egregious, and people definitely need to call you, Jenny Beth, to figure out, for the people who want to do it right, that is. I don't know that these people were one of them.
I mean, and it doesn't have to be me, but freaking call somebody. Like, guys, don't trust. This is like a really important position in your company, and there's ways to do it outsourced, but you got to kind of have this right. And if the origin tags aren't right, if you can't show, so it's a parent to child tag. If your child tag doesn't match your parent tag, then your product is no longer tracked on the track and trace system. It is not compliant, period, point blank, end of story, until you prove it is. For them to actually release this embargo and go so far as to do a revocation means that they have really, really, really substantial evidence, because they don't do that easily. I've had clients with embargoes that we've had to get them out of, and we've had the embargo lifted. Why? Because my client was just a dickhead and didn't listen and didn't use these forms that I created that show me all the information I need to keep his metrics straight. So that was his big old bad. But we were able to prove that at least, the product came from a real origin. I'm like, listen, look at the number of plants, look at what I put into flour, look at the transfers that came in, clone purchases. We could track this back, and we did so. But to not be able to do that and see a revocation, that's a pretty substantial situation.
Lawyers Full Employment Act's what it is.
Jenny Beth,
save money on lawyers and insurance and things like that. If you take the extra steps that Jenny Beth is talking about, we do the same thing. We do compliance checks. We help do SOP amendments to make sure that you're not just out there in thin air, that you're anticipating what's coming. And it's better to find it through me or the people I work with than it is to have the DCC find it and come in and shut you down. And then you got to go hire lawyers, which just, it's a dead drain. You don't make anything off lawyers. Lawyers make things off of you.
Fair enough. You guys, what is the appeals process, or is there even an appeals process after a revocation like this?
I mean, there is an appeals process, but it doesn't go well.
It doesn't go well.
At the point of a full revocation, they got you.
You're fighting to get it back. I mean, the administrative law procedures are out there and available, and this is what litigators do in this space, is they go in and litigate this to try and, get your license back. But typically when it's revoked and there's good cause for it, you're out for like 5 years at a minimum. You're just not coming back. And if it's not been revoked or you're suspended, then you have at least a snowball's chance in hell of getting this thing back. These guys are done.
Yeah.
And with an embargo, you do have the opportunity that the state can decide whether they want to suspend or revoke your license, right? And they went straight for revocation here, which is pretty heavy. And it's a tough fight. Once you're in that position, the best way is to not get into that position in the first place.
I just wonder, if this is actually going to create an even bigger problem, because the DCC only has jurisdiction on places that are licensed, correct?
Yeah.
So now that they have removed this license, they have in essence just created a trap, every type of component that it is, and they don't have any jurisdiction over it.
You would have to have balls the size of the biggest bull in Texas to keep operating in a facility that this just happened in.
Is the DOJ's coming after you next?
If not already, because we also changed regulations last year, remember, that made it illegal for a licensed entity to knowingly do business with an unlicensed entity, even by diversion. Diversion works both ways. If we're diverting something from the illicit market into the regulated market, that's a two-way street.
And something we haven't seen yet since the Cole memo is that the feds step in. I mean, the spending preclusion from the latest iteration of Rohrabacher-Farr is only if you're staying within these state rules. If you're outside the state rules, your ass is hanging out. And I guarantee you, everybody involved in this is looking at a 10-piece easily if the feds come in and go after them, unless they're going to start ratting each other out. But this is the kind of situation where the feds might step in, because these people are off the chain. They're not following the rules, so they can't argue that, oh, you can't prosecute me. Yes, they can. And at some point, they're going to, because the state's been ineffective. This whole thing has been very ineffective, from the DCC to the DOJ. They just have not been able to wrap their hands around this and figure out a way to solve this adulterated product problem at a minimum, and people getting around track and trace. Boxes of shit fall off trucks all the time, and no one reports it. It ends up in a trap shop. It's like, oh, I don't know what happened to it. The hell you don't. Okay? People know what they're doing here. These are intentional acts. And I'm telling you, the feds don't play. If they decide to step in, every one of these people is looking at a minimum of a 10-piece in federal prison, if not more. And they should stop fucking around with this, because the feds don't play. Rob Bonta has not been real effective at doing anything at the DOJ, but he can. At some point,
this is a long list of brands, you guys, that are produced by these guys. And I wasn't going to give the whole list, but I will, just because some of these names are going to be like, what the fuck? Backpack Boys, Circles, Cloud, Cure and Joy, Dabgo, Everyday, High 90s, Holotips, Mr. Nice Guy, Powwow, Superb, The Marathon Cultivation. That's a lot of brands. That's a lot of brands produced by these guys. And they did, in fact, lose both licenses, both their distribution and their manufacturing license. They were revoked as of October. Let me actually pull the letter up here, because I don't want to misquote. Guess who won't be hiring me? Probably any of these guys. As of October 15th, there was a full revocation.
Wow. Then if they revoked their licenses on the 15th, Jenny, then why did the retailers of the carrying some of these products that are part of the embargo only get notice just yesterday?
On the 16th. Well, you have to notice here's an issue. This is all resulting from an August 30th on-site inspection. So August 30th to now is telling me that they probably have tried to fight this, go back and forth a little bit. But from an on-site inspection on August 30th to a full revocation 2 weeks later, that's month and a half later, that's incredibly fast, because it's a 30-day appeal process, right? So that tells me they probably did appeal. And the result of that appeal was a revocation. And yeah, we should have been, because I mean, you can't necessarily tell people until you can prove that there's a problem to pull product from shelves. That might be a kink in the system too. There should be a quarantine process just in case. What that's going to do is it's going to piss retailers off because now they've purchased all this product that they can't sell. However, it's better to do that than risk putting something dangerous in the hands of a consumer.
Oh, totally true. Totally true about that. With that, weed for the people, you guys, and that's why they're
shout out to Elliot and Cat 4. I mean, like, listen, people have said what they want to say about Cat 4 and what Elliot's trying to do, but if you have a better plan, speak the fuck up. If not, then get off somebody's back who's trying to make it better. Like, this guy's coming out of his own pocket, so you could say whatever you want to freaking say, but you know, Cat 4 is not technically a thing. No, it's not. What it is it's a company taking onus of the fact that they know they're giving products to consumers and saying, yes, we realize we have these COAs, but this Cat 4 says that we've gone the extra step to make sure that the stuff in our store passes a real COA. We know what it is. We know where it came from, etc. So I applaud them for that, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, and if the government isn't going to take the leadership to help make these products all safer, you know what I mean? It's on the onerous of the industry to do so. So totally with you on that. Any final thoughts on this?
Shouldn't that be an objective? Shouldn't it be objective? Our industry should be policing ourselves.
I agree with that.
We rely too much on the government to do shit, and the government could fuck up a wet dream.
Yeah, they
can. And we're just watching it right now. They are so slow at doing stuff. Our industry can step up and do this themselves. Build into your SOPs this. Make sure every contract provides that if we test this shit and you send it to us and it fails, it's going back to you. We want our money back. There are a lot of things in the industry we can do to make this safer for the consumers instead of relying on bureaucracies. That's gotten us into nothing but trouble.
You have any final thoughts on this, Stone or Rachelle?
Weed for the people.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Joe Mackey with that big old super chat today, and huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, and thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do what we do every day. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners, Adam, in the virtualness out there. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.